Hey guys, let's get more news from Miami Heat, but first don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Duncan Robinson turned to sports psychologists during rough stretch after signing contract extension. Miami Heat sharpshooter Duncan Robinson hit some rocky waters in his NBA career after signing the biggest contract of his life in the 2021 offseason. The wing lost his spot in the Heat's starting lineup near the end of the 2021-22 season, and his spot in the rotation, let alone the starting lineup, was inconsistent throughout the 2022-23 campaign. But this season, he looks like a brand new player, and each of his last 13 appearances for the Heat have been starts. During his rough stretch, Robinson turned to friends, family, and sports psychologists who he has close relationships with, per the Miami Herald. He spoke about how he navigated that stretch of his career during a time in which he was dealing with heightened expectations and pressure. This was something that I discussed internally with some close friends of mine and my family that, for the first time, the goalpost shifted, said Robinson. I was always kind of like the guy coming up or whatever. If I did anything, it was like, oh, well. It's like found money. Look at this undrafted dude, overachiever. I think I let the narrative shift in my mind more than it should have, or I let it influence my own thoughts more than it should have. I have the understanding and perspective to look back now and be like, nothing actually changed and nothing needed to change. I could have just kept being myself. Robinson is currently enjoying perhaps the best season of his NBA career. He's averaging 14.8 points, 2.8 rebounds, and 2.9 assists per game while shooting 47.8% from the field and 42.6% from beyond the arc. Moreover, over his last 13 appearances, since he was inserted into the starting lineup, he's averaging 16.8 points per game to go along with a lethal three-point percentage of 45.3%. There was a lot of chatter and criticism directed at Robinson in recent seasons as he failed to live up to the expectations that often come with a contract like his, but the veteran never quit, and he's now turning into a very well-rounded player after once being seen as more of a three-point specialist. Robinson's next chance to add a page to this exciting chapter will come on Wednesday when the Heat play host to the Charlotte Hornets. Miami is a few games over .500 at 13-10 this season. With 4 straight home games coming up, the squad may be able to build some momentum in the coming days. Barring some sort of trade or similar transaction, Robinson's time with the Heat isn't coming to an end anytime soon, so his growth is a wonderful development for all involved parties. Miami Heat optimistic Tyler Herro can return soon in latest injury update. Tyler Herro will miss his 16th straight game with a sprained right ankle when the Miami Heat host the Charlotte Hornets Wednesday night, but a report suggests he could be back in the lineup soon. Although the Heat have yet to offer a timetable on Herro's return, the Miami Herald reported Tuesday, citing an anonymous league source, that there's optimism that Herro will be able to make his return within the next week. Herro has been seen shooting around after practices without any noticeable brace or wrap on the right ankle he injured during a November 9 game in Memphis. He was averaging career highs in points, 25.3, rebounds, 5.6, and assists, 5.0, in 7 appearances before getting hurt. After Wednesday's game against the Hornets, the Heat will host the Chicago Bulls on Thursday and Saturday and end a 4-game homestand against the Minnesota Timberwolves Monday. Getting Herro back would be a boost to a Miami offense that ranks 13th in offensive rating but has been outscored by 2.8 points per game in the fourth quarter this season. Herro has been among the Heat's best clutch-time scorers over the last 3 seasons. Bam Adebayo will miss his 5th straight game with a left hip contusion Wednesday night against the Hornets. Adebayo traveled with the team for Monday's game in Charlotte but hasn't played since exiting the first half of Miami's November 30 game against the Indiana Pacers with a lingering hip injury. The Heat don't have a timetable for his return. Haywood Highsmith will miss his 4th straight game with a lower back contusion. Josh Richardson is listed as questionable with a non-COVID illness. Tyler Herro had a great start to the season but suffered an ankle injury during the match between Miami Heat and Memphis Grizzlies. He was injured in the first quarter when he jumped and stepped on Jaren Jackson Jr.'s foot. Despite the Florida team losing the athlete for the rest of the game, the Heat overcame the Grizzlies. Herro even tried to continue playing, but had to go straight to the locker room. As soon as it happened, I felt it. And I kind of knew mentally, but I heard some pops in my ankle. And I thought, yes, that's it, he said in an interview shortly after the game. Now, Harrow must miss the Heat for a few weeks. According to the team, the player received ice treatment shortly after the injury and underwent initial examinations. Afterwards, the team reported that the athlete had nothing more serious than the sprain. NBA trade rumors, Celtics, Heat to fight over high-coveted stretch big at deadline? More than a quarter of the way into the 2023-24 NBA season, the contenders and pretenders in both conferences are already beginning to separate themselves from the rest of the competition. Two teams that are expected to factor in who wins the Eastern Conference this season are the Miami Heat and Boston Celtics. The Heat and Celtics have met in the Eastern Conference Finals in 3 of the last 4 years. Quite frankly, it wouldn't be surprising if the two teams ended up meeting with an NBA Finals appearance on the line for a 4th time in 5 years. However, in the next couple of months leading to the NBA trade deadline, both teams will be looking to add a final piece ahead of the stretch run. The Heat and Celtics may have very different needs at this point in their builds, but there is one similarity between the two squads, and that's the fact that they both have had their eye on Kelly Olynyk. According to recent reporting, both the Heat and Celtics could be coveted a reunion with Olynyk. Heading into the trade deadline, he's one of the bigs that could be highly sought after due to his versatility on the offensive end of the floor. As a soon-to-be 33-year-old, Olynyk is no longer in the prime of his career. However, that doesn't mean that he can't be a core contributor for a contender. Especially if a contender is in the market for depth in the frontcourt. Playing a much smaller role this season with the Utah Jazz, Olynyk is averaging 8 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists on 59% shooting from the field and 49% shooting from three-point range. With these types of shooting efficiencies, it's no surprise that both the Celtics and Heat would be intrigued by the idea of adding Olynyk. In the final year of his contract, it would be somewhat shocking if the Jazz didn't elect to move Olynyk at the trade deadline. Especially considering how his role with the team has diminished compared to last season. The question is, which is the contender that will win the bidding war for Olynyk at the trade deadline? We know the Heat and Celtics will be in the thick of such a move. And you fan, what do you think of the Kelly Olynyk situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.